an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Gravity Falls, Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6, Soos and the Real Girl, and Little Gift Shop of Horrors. In these episodes, Abuelita really wants Soos to settle down with a nice girl. And by nice girl, she definitely meant virtual girl from the television that cannot be brought on dates, except on a screen. I guess that counts? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Melanie for commissioning this episode. I believe that Melanie told me that she wasn't going to be able to make this one. So, Melanie, I hope that once you listen to this, it is everything you ever wished for. These episodes I actually just watched this morning, so they are very, very fresh in my mind. I don't usually do that. I don't like to start my day with with material that I'm going to be just covering, like an hour later, because I like to let things stew a little bit. But this I kept saving to watch with Owen, and then he wound up getting home from work way later than he thought last night, and so we didn't get around to watching it. And actually, I kind of liked it for this show. I think that this show is light enough, and oftentimes is... what's the word I want? It tends to be, there are little mysteries and little hints of other things happening, but oftentimes it's what you see is what you get. And I feel like I will retain my energy for it better, maybe, if I follow up really quickly on it. So I'm all right with it this time around. Now, let's start with Soos and the Real Girl, which is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this and if you got the reference, but there was a movie that came out at this point, probably like 8 years ago, called Lars and the Real Girl. And it had the goose, Ryan Gosling, in it. And it was about a guy who falls for a girl who is not real. And when I say a girl who is not real, I think you might want to think that that's a virtual girl, but it is actually basically like a sex doll. And those, sex dolls are an industry now that is, burgeoning. I hate using that word in reference to this, but there it is. And they have become a lot more realistic over the years, and there is even an attempt to, give them software that can interact in a way and speak back as if they are actually having a conversation. I have never seen, full disclosure, Lars and the Real Girl. So, I have actually heard that as much as it sounds like truly disturbing, a truly disturbing premise, that it's weirdly sweet and is actually extremely well done. So it's one of those movies that I have this low-level curiosity about, but I'm pretty sure I'm never going to get around to watching it unless somebody else comes over and is no, you really have to see this. So I saw that and I was kind of immediately what is this going to be about? Because my brain goes right to the direct corollary. So I'm is Soos going to have a sex doll? Obviously it wouldn't be a sex doll in this show, but I was kind of what are they going to... And it turns out to be a video game, which makes a ton of sense. So let's start off. We have Mabel, who for some reason runs straight into the screen door and gets her braces stuck on the screen, which just... when I was younger, always wanted braces. I thought that braces were a cool accessory. They were jewelry. And people were always and I realize now that it was a lot of the upper middle class kids but they were able to like connect with like, oh, I just got mine tightened. Oh my God, doesn't it hurt so bad? I know, it's awful. And then they'd be like, oh, I decided to get the purple bands for mine this time or whatever. And I was always just like, oh, I'm so jealous. I want to be able to get like weird different colors for inside my mouth. And how cool is that? But, you know, now I realize that I was just really lucky to have been born with perfect teeth, and my parents didn't have to spend thousands of dollars on braces. So these kinds of things where the braces get stuck on stuff, that is a nightmare that I tried not to think about. Like, there's definitely stories about people making out who both have braces and then getting stuck together. There's people who have eaten things and like bits of it have gotten in their braces and it takes like days for them to get it out. There is just a lot about the braces experience that I just pretended I didn't know about, even though seeing it, even in a cartoon, is excruciating. So she gets stuck to the screen door and Soos lets her out. And then he's like, all right, everybody, well, I'm taking off for the day, so I'll see y'all later. And he leaves, and everybody starts sort of talking about what it is that he gets up to when he's not at the Mystery Shack. Well, the only person who really wonders is Mabel. And then everybody else is just like, yeah, I've never thought about it, and I've never cared. So, Soos, at home, is doing highlights on his abuelita's hair, which is, first of all, the most precious thing. His abuelita's voice is so strange. I'm pretty confident that it's a dude just doing a weird, like, high-pitched voice. But she shows him an invitation to an engagement party for his cousin, Reggie, who basically looks like Soos, except he's got dark hair and a mustache and a little, like, goatee, like a... what do they call those? A little flavor saver. And his fiance is very Snooki-esque. She's got like that bouffant in front. And it, like, their whole look is just beautiful together. They have found the ones. I am very happy for them. Congratulations, kids. Samantha is in the chat. Hi, Samantha. She says soul patch. Soul patch. That's the one. That's the one. So his grandmother says to him, like, because Soos is like, Reggie's engaged. He's like the poor man's Soos. And she says, I do not want to pressure you, but you are a man now, in a way. It's time for you to start meeting girls. I would like to see you settled before I ascend to heaven and live with the angels. And he says, and with Grandpa. And she just looks at him for a second and then just says, no, he is not there. Okay, can I just say something real quick? I love that line delivery because if you guys, and like, you know, obviously I speak a drop of Spanish, but not enough. And growing up, I hardly spoke any. My guys, when you speak to somebody whose first language is not English, one of the best things about it is that they will deliver the most devastating lines with no real inflection that you expect, because they don't necessarily realize the like intensity of the words that they've chosen. They chose the words that they understand the best for the situation, but it can be like just crushing and they don't know it. So, you know, I'm trying to think of an example from real life and I can't think of one, but a fake example just being like, yes, I suppose that you would like those jeans. And it's like, they're not really saying anything that's like mean exactly. It's just the kind of thing that if a native said it, yeah, I suppose you would like those jeans, is going to have a really specific like sound to it and a meaning. But because they don't mean it that way and you like kind of know that, it's funnier. And in this case, she's saying something kind of really horrible, but with much more muted language than you would expect. So she doesn't say, oh no, your grandpa's definitely burning in hell. She just says, no, grandpa's not there. And I almost died. The accuracy of the way that she just says that one line. I feel like whomever animated this or wrote this script or is in charge of her character, they have an abuelita. They know. 100%. I loved it so much. So yeah, she's explaining to Soos that, he needs to get a girl. Now, guys, I have to be honest. I have no idea how old Soos is supposed to be. I think that I had been thinking throughout this that he was like 30. Because he's just got this weird sort of he's just so doughy, and he doesn't have any hair that I can remember, that I thought it had all fallen out. And I'm realizing he's got a hat on. So it's not necessarily that he doesn't have any hair, but I guess I just thought that he was kind of not over the hill. Feels like it's too, because he doesn't feel like that old. It just felt like it's being implied here that he's in his early 20s, maybe. And I just thought he was meant to be older than that. So in conclusion, my bad, Soos. Sorry about that, buddy. But also you kind of have nobody to blame but yourself. So she tells him that he has to take care of this. She takes off, and he's sitting there and thinking about how, yeah, no, I can totally do this. No problem. I don't have anything to worry about. Piece of cake. And then the screen blinks and says, you're dead. And he just says, I'm dead. And man, oh man, but we did not know how true it was when he said that. Because Soos has not the faintest idea how to talk to women. Listen, I feel like the number one... Oh, God. This is so depressing, guys. But I'm going to say it. The number one thing that I wish guys would keep in mind when talking to women is, we don't know you. We see you as a threat immediately. Okay? This is something that all men, I don't give a shit if you are actually dangerous. That is irrelevant. Does not have anything to do with you. The leading cause of death in women is men. You are a threat. Okay? So, following that logic, do not hide in clothing racks and suddenly pop up yelling about our faces and what they look like. Do not sneak up behind us and just start a conversation like that's just gonna happen because we are in a position where we can't literally just get away from you. Everything that Soos does, all of it, is a bad idea. He's just, oh, sweetheart, angel, honey, no, it's bad. And I just really, I feel for him because if you don't, and obviously Soos does not understand anything about women. So there is no reason for him to understand exactly how wrong he's doing everything. But Soos is a very empathetic dude, I think. And if we explained, if there was a woman who was I definitely understand that you are just doing this out of ignorance, I could see him internalizing what she told him and being oh, shit. Yeah, okay, I see how that looks really bad. You know what? Okay, why don't I do this a different way now? And I feel like things could get better pretty quickly for him because he understands other people and like, seems like the kind of guy who just sort of makes an effort, right? But instead, we get just this like, oh, I'm going to teach you just how to talk to women, like the what's the word I want? Like the pickup artists, but like pickup artists go way more like psychological than this. They're trying to teach Soos the basics of how to just like be a normal human being in a conversation. And that's the thing I think that I'm like, you know, later on when he winds up getting it right with that girl whose name I'm forgetting, all he did was talk to her in the way a normal person would without trying to approach it like he is attempting to score points in a game. And that, I think, you know, women are people, approach us like people. It's really like, it shouldn't be that hard, but it's pretty, like, this whole thing is just pretty painful to watch is what I'm saying. Samantha says her name is Melody. Thank you. So meanwhile, accompanying that whole storyline, we've got the thing with Grunkle Stan, who has this fucking, guys, this is the most terrifying thing. He's got this like little machine that you're supposed to put like a nickel in. I don't know what is supposed to happen on the other end of putting your nickel in there. Like, is it supposed to, like, he says something about like you're panning for gold. Is it supposed to be like a toy comes out or like gold confetti? Because I don't see Grunkle Stan ever actually giving back to kids when they give him a nickel. You know, there's those things where you put a penny in and you're supposed to like roll it and stamp it and it comes out and you have this like flattened weird penny. And people put theirs in and he just keeps it and says thank you for the penny with his machine. But this thing is terrifying. It's like this old prospector made out of bronze and it malfunctions and starts leaking what looks like black oil from its eyes and mouth and nose and everything. Guys, it's so scary. I was so glad that the kid started screaming, crying, because that is exactly the right response. That thing was terrifying looking. And Grunkle Stan realizes that this thing has sort of given up the ghost and it is time to try something new. So he goes to the mall. And there's this place that's like a sort of akin to a Chuck E. Cheese. And they have a bunch of animatronic animals that play in a band. And one of them, which is a badger, I think it's a badger, right? He is the star that really like is the draw for the kids. And this fucking, I loved it so much. I'm not going to lie, guys. Grunkle Stan sees this thing, and rather than just be like, oh, I know, I will like do something like this and find a version of it that works for the Mystery Shack. He's like, no, I want that badger. That's it. That's the one. Gimme. And when they understandably are unwilling to sell their main draw, because why would you? Grunkle Stan simply decides to steal it, which I guess that's just getting right to the point. Okay. And what follows is, first of all, he dumps the dude who has failed him in the dumpster, which is honestly this tragic moment, tossing away garbage in the garbage can, and it stares at him. And he says, don't look at me like that. This is how it's gotta be. And a bunch of oil comes out of one of its eyes like a tear, which I kind of thought maybe for a second he would be like, aw. But instead he has the correct reaction, which is, ugh, and then slams it shut. And then he goes and spies on the dude in order to try and like find a good time to sneak in and steal the badger. And the dude is like kissing the badger and telling it how much he admires it. It is a real moment, guys. Like, honestly, there are so many moments in this show that I could easily miss. Like, it's just constant jokes that sort of, it just feels like they're piled on top of each other so quickly. I could just really see you being focused on a joke that for you is everything, and somebody else doesn't even remember it because they're that quick and on top of each other, you know? So yeah, I really like the good show, man. Way to warm them up. I wish I was more like you. And then kissing it. Oh, God, sweetie. Honey, what are you doing? So, long story short, this thing comes to life and begins to attack her Uncle Stan. We'll get there. Okay, so backing it up to Soos. He is at the mall with Dipper and Mabel, and they are going to be coaching him and encouraging him, re his flirting skills and his attempts to talk to women. And he is so scary. He is just so terrifying. Oh, God. And women are continually running away. I really enjoy the fact that this whole thing is not like, oh, Soos is too unattractive to find a date. It is, I mean, Soos is not attractive. I will say that. But that does not seem to be the issue here. It is just that he is a darned creep. So finally, he sees his cousin and fiance and runs off because he is too embarrassed to be spotted by his fiance or by his cousin and fiance when he is out here with no date, feeling particularly down on his luck. And he runs away and hides in a video game store. Now, guys, his cousin and his fiance are just so fucking funny to me. I just love the look of the two of them in the photo already, but when you get to see them in action, he's like flexing and telling her like, feel it, babe, all muscle. And she's like grabbing his arm and like giggling to herself in this way that is so, it's like, is she serious? I don't know. But anyway, Soos is hiding in the video game store and he comes across this game called Romance Academy in the sale bin. And on the back, there is a sticky note that says destroy at all costs, but also the game has been given extremely high ratings by basement dwellers, as they are called. And we see an illustration of a dude in a dirty undershirt with like 11 o'clock shadow, and he is, it appears, sweating profusely and just in general looks a mess. Now, I'm going to get out in front of this and say, I am not somebody who loves the dude living in his basement playing nothing but video games stereotype in general, because I feel like it can be really reductive. But, I mean, that shit comes from a place of truth. And while there are variations and whatnot, I have met these people many times. And this isn't just some, like, invented shitty thing. These people are real, and they are a mess, and they smell bad, and they need assistance. It's just the truth. So while a part of me sort of recoiled from this, another part of me was like, ugh, accurate. You know what I'm saying? So it says destroy at all costs, and the sales girl is like, are you sure you want to buy this? Because, like, this has been brought back, actually, 3 times it's been returned. So, like, maybe don't. And they look over and Soos is just trying to hit on a fucking cardboard cutout of Lara Croft, basically. And they're like, no, it's fine. So Soos goes home and tests this thing out. And it's this anime girl who is dressed up she's wearing a very similar to a Sailor Moon sort of outfit. And she is giving him 3 things to choose from in conversations. Would you carry my books for me? And you get the choice of yes, of course. I am impatient. Date me now. Or, hey, look, a squid. Which I really want to, what? But I love this. This is supposed to be something that trains him into making slightly better choices. I got to imagine that this is real, right? There are games like this, right? Where it's like you're dating and you have to pick the right thing to say. This is definitely real, right? I mean, I've seen sort of similar things for iPhone, so I would imagine. But anyway, she tells him when he makes the wrong choice and says, I am impatient, date me now. She says, that's okay, try again. And he clicks yes, of course, and gets 100 love points. And she says, what would you like to talk about? Your interests, samurais, squids. And he tries to click on her face and she says, oh my God, you are so funny. And he says, wow, this game is so fun. I don't know why anyone abandoned it. And she says, and I'm sure you'll never abandon me. And it zooms in on her eyes as she says it. And then there's a slow pan as it is revealed that the computer is not actually plugged in. So I love this. I love it. I love it so much. I love this creepy anime girl. I love her, kind of like the unstable girlfriend, overly attached girlfriend eyes. This whole thing is just perfect. It's great. Heather's in the chat. Dating sims are a whole game genre. Yeah. Okay. Man, guys, can we just detour real quick? Yo, dating is the fucking pits, right? I know that that's literally its own whole comedy bit is how bad dating is. I have been so lucky in that I have really gotten to skirt the worst of the dating experience, especially the modern dating experience with a lot of online stuff. I met Owen online, but I met him via Twitter. I wasn't looking for anybody, and it wasn't I had to go through a bunch of people's shitty profiles and assess them. I just wound up constantly having great interactions with him to the point that it got my attention when I was not actively looking. But man, dating sims are never going to actually encapsulate the danger and horror of it for women. And if you really want to know what dating is like, go to the Reddit Am I the Asshole and the Reddit relationships threads and just read what fucking women are putting up with every day. And then you will just give up on it and become a hermit. So, long story short, she is sucking him in, and he has not left his house in 13 hours by the time that Mabel and Dipper come to check on him. He didn't show up for work, and this is the first time that has ever happened before. So this is a cause for great concern. They finally convince him that he really needs to get out of the house. And it takes a bit. They are, they have to pull open one of the shades and let some light in, and he hisses like an alien, not an alien, like a vampire, and hides under the desk, and they drag him away. He says, I'll see you later, Giffany. And I love later. He says, or maybe it's Giffany. I'm not sure. But it turns out that she is hooked into anything electrical. So she basically hops from one appliance to another to the power lines until she is able to track him down at the mall. So Soos has another couple of moments of trying to talk to women, being extremely like creepy. He like knocks into a woman and then apologizes, and she says, "You can't apologize for what you are." And I was just like, damn, did you need to be that mean? Jesus Christ. And this is when Giffany turns up on all of the TVs in this like display. And I love this so much. She is talking about like the creation. The programmers tried to delete me, so I had to delete them. And we see this dude getting like electrocuted, and then the screen just goes blank, and Soos says, "What did you do to them?" And she says, "That's not important." Which I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's not. What's important is you don't have to talk to real girls ever again. You and me can be together forever. And he's like, "Hey, that's awesome. Also sort of a red flag, but what do you want to do now?" So he goes to the kids zone and is riding this like little kids train, and the screen is popping up, and she is like, you know, there with him kind of as the conductor on the train. This is the craziest thing. And this girl comes up to him and is giggling, and she's like, got this fucking, guys, she's got this fucking apron on that says "meet cute." It's so good. And they hit it off. And he very naturally asks her on a date. And both Mabel and Dipper are so excited and so proud of him because he was able to just act naturally. Because he was distracted at the fact that he wanted to keep riding this little train. And so he just forgets to be weird about it. But unfortunately for him, Giffany sees this. She knows. And when he begins to try and, quote, kind of break up with her at home, she starts to freak out. He says, "Maybe I should be with someone a little less beep boop, you know?" And she just, "Nobody loves you more than me. The girls out there will just make fun of you. I know so. We had a deal." This whole thing, like, this is, it's almost not funny, because a thing that people who are really, like, being emotionally abused often experience is the abuser will tell them that they are, like, either so strange or so high maintenance or so emotional or so whatever that nobody else will ever be willing to deal with their shit. Essentially, you are so lucky that you found somebody as patient as me because you are too much XYZ. Fill in the blank here. And it really works when somebody doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. It's just, you know, you tell a person the very things about them that they themselves are afraid of, and you confirm what they already think is true, and so it feels even truer, and they believe you and stay with you even though you're treating them horribly. So he puts the disc in his pocket. He unplugs the whole thing, and he doesn't see that as he leaves with the disc in his pocket, that it doesn't matter that he has the disc. Giffany is still on his computer, and she is beginning to bug out. So he goes on his date with Melanie, and things are going mostly okay until he sees Giffany on the screen behind Melody's head. And then he realizes that she has followed him here, and things are getting really bad. And he kind of tries to run away and talk to Mabel and Dipper about it, who don't immediately believe him. Which, I mean, I understand why they might not. But they are quickly proven wrong when she pops up on the screens. Take it from someone who brought, what does she say? Oh yeah, he says, take it from someone who brought an arcade game to life. This will not end well. That was from Dipper. That's right. So she fucking just begins to go through all of the video games. She hooks up into the animatronic creatures on the stage, and she takes over this one that's like I don't even know what she's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be like a cat or a gopher or a ferret or what. But it's the girl, maybe it's a rabbit? I don't know. But she like basically comes at him in the kitchen, and he takes the disc and tosses it into the pizza oven. And I don't know why this works. I mean, I am willing to accept it, don't get me wrong. But like, he took the disc out of his computer, and she was still in the computer, and she was still able to like jump around and manifest in different places. So the disc at this point is tertiary, right? That's not actually like where she resides anymore. One would not think that would work, but apparently it does. So we end this episode with Soos, who is really excited because his weird little prospector guy, or not Soos, Grunkle Stan, his prospector guy is the one who like kind of bit the badger dude and saved him while the badger dude was trying to attack him. Grunkle Stan says that he wants to hit the town with him, and this leads to like this amazing montage later of the two of them going to Vegas together. Weirdest thing they've ever done, but I was very into it. And then Soos and Melody talking. And he said, she says, believe it or not, I've been on worse dates. And he asks if she would come to the engagement party. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll still be in town. And he's like, wait, what? And she says, yeah, I'm actually going to be going home to Portland in a few weeks. But we can video chat if that's okay with you. And he's like, huh, yeah, all right. A virtual girlfriend I can only see through my computer actually doesn't sound terrible. And I wonder if she's going to pop back up again, you know? I also really enjoy the fact that Abuela pops up in the ball pit with Dipper and Mabel at the end and tells them that Soos's life is her soap opera and that she just loves watching it. So, yeah. So that is the end of that episode. And now we get into the Little Gift Shop of Horrors episode. So, guys, this episode is really, really fun. I kind of want to like say, I know that Owen's going to want to watch these episodes now, and that's fine, and I will let him, it's fine. But there is a part of me that kind of wants to save it for him to watch at Halloween, because there's just, it's so perfect, and it just suited my mood very well this morning as well, like little bite-sized stories. So it's treated like Grunkle Stan is speaking to the camera like he is breaking the fourth wall, which is a fun little thing. Well, hello there, traveler. I see your car broke down on this lonesome country road. A place so remote that no one will hear your screams. Come in, but be warned. If you enter, you may be subjected to my tales, designed to sell my merchandise. So, this is actually a pretty good setup, and I'm here for this. So, we go to the first story, which is about a hand. It's called Hands Off, and it starts off with a sort of like flea market. They're calling it a swap meet. People are selling tires and random shit. Manly Dan's masculine collectibles. This was a pretty cute like setup. I actually really liked this, and I kind of want to return to this like setting because I feel like people of the town selling shit that is appropriate to them makes for a really good setup for a lot of different storylines. So they go up to this one table, and there's this old woman reading Crone Alone magazine. And she is selling a bunch of watches. And Grunkle Stan is like talking about how he's going to show the kids how to barter. But then he calls her hag face and wants to know how much for the junk watches. And she is yelling at him and telling him that they're not for him. The wind whispers your name, yada, yada, yada. He plunks some money down and goes to grab a watch. And she grabs his hand and tells him to let go of it. And her eyes like roll back in her head and begin to glow. And it's pretty freaky. So they walk away. And Grunkle Stan, like the goober doofus he is, it turns out stole one of the watches. Because he is just totally fine with flirting with disaster. And what happens is he wakes up the next morning and his hands are gone. And they being Mabel and Dipper, are understandably horrified. I would really like to emphasize how much I love that design-wise, even though they could have just had him have no hands, they put these like glowing pink lines on the end of his hands, which really make it look like there's like a neon ring or something that doesn't make any sense. I don't know why that made it so much better for me, but it really has this vibe of like, yeah, your hands are like, they're there, or they're still somewhere. They're not just gone. There's something about that makes it feel like his hands still exist somewhere, and I can't put my finger on what that is, but it was just such a good choice, and I just wanted to mention it. I love like nice little design moments like that. So yeah, it turns out that he is supposed to return the watch in order to get his hands back. And the way that this is done is that he's like, well, the watch still looks nice, right? And he's looking at the watch face, and the witch's face appears in it and tells him that he has to return what he stole. And she's like mid-sentence, and he just pulls the fucking oven mitt over it, and she starts going, like she starts getting really muffled. I cackled, y'all. I thought that was so funny. I love weird jokes like that. Like, it's not even a joke. I don't know, but I loved it. So he tries to behave as if it's not going to matter that he doesn't have any hands, and has Mabel make him some hands. And by hands, what Mabel means is upside down what look like ice cream cups with forks glued or taped to them. Obviously, this does not work. He tries to do several things throughout the day, including eat breakfast, just talk to Mabel, but he gets tangled up in her hair, go bowling, and then my personal favorite, guys, he goes to the grocery store, and there's this dude. Hey, Mr. Pines, should we play Toss Me a Dozen Eggs like we always do? No, Jimmy, wait, not today. And he just gets hit with a dozen eggs, and it is inexplicable. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so stupid. I love it. So that is the fucking straw that broke his back. And he is like, all right, fine, let's go find the switch. And what follows is one of the most unsettling things that's ever happened on this show. They're walking into this cave. They feel a tap on their shoulders. All of them experience it at different points. They lift their fucking, their flashlights, and there are all of these hands all over the walls, running around like spiders, like Thing. Guys, I am not kidding. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. I thought insects were bad. Spiders, snakes. This is so much worse. Like, can you imagine actually seeing this in a live action movie? It would be, I mean, you'd never forget it. It would just be burned into your mind for all time. Oh my God. I can't. Like, even just looking at it just now, and the way that all of their fingers are sort of wiggling. Oh, no, no, no. No, sir. Thank you very much. So it turns out that in order to get his hands back, he has to kiss the witch. But he very quickly is like, what? Absolutely not. And they suddenly all realize, wait, are you just trying to meet people by stealing their hands? Are you sure that this is how you want to do this? And she explains that it's just really hard to meet people, and, it's, the whole thing is really rather sad. And then Mabel is like, well, I am not surprised that you have a hard time dating, because who wants to come to your creepy cave that's covered in hands? And she offers to do a makeover for this witch's place. And it's this, wonderful spoof of, a HGTV show. And at the end, when they bring her to see it, she's got two of the hands, covering her eyes. Guys, it's so good. And there's a book of pickup lines. And they leave, and there is just some hiker who comes up and is just like, hey, I've gotten lost. Can I just spend the night here? It would be cool if I crashed. And she uses one of the pickup lines about his butt looking out of this world, and he's like, oh, thanks for noticing. I love that the pickup line starts with girl. It's so great. It's such a weird story. What? Doesn't matter. It's perfection, and I never want... I would watch a feature-length film of that story. 100%. Okay, so then we go to the Waddles story. A Baconings. So, there is this thing that, because Dipper has found a basically Rubik's Cube, but it's way harder. And he wants to be able to solve it. And he finds something in his journal, that book, about how to create some potion that will increase brain activity. And you apply it to your forehead and sleep overnight. So he applies it to his forehead as he is supposed to do. But Waddles wakes up in the middle of the night, and there is some left in the bowl, and he just gets up, eats all of it out of the bowl, and then licks all of it off of Dipper's head. And when Dipper wakes up in the morning, Waddles is extremely smart and is voiced by, if I am not mistaken, Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is a choice. Sure. All right. I guess we're doing this now. And it is amazing. Honestly, this episode, this story is pretty short, because Mabel is really bummed out that her best bud, Waddles, basically is like, I'm too smart to do that stupid pig stuff anymore. Except if Waddles were like that, it would almost be easier to bear. Instead, Waddles is like, come on, Mabel, do you really want me to keep all of the intelligence that I have and everything I have to offer the world all to myself? You don't think I should share that? And he appeals to her better nature, which is just exactly the right tactic, and she can't even really be mad without seeming kind of a dick. And it is really something. So he is off with Dipper, creating some... What is it that first they go and they distribute their ideas. So they give Grenda a jetpack And they are like going to use it to help her get down her kite. But instead she's like, no, I'm going to go look at cute boys through skylights. To which I'm like, best of luck, sister. That's weird, but okay. And then they talk about, don't forget the laser gun we made for Candy. And we hear lasers firing and Candy says, that's to my enemies. Guys, I completely forgot that her other friend's name is Candy. So when they say, don't forget the laser gun we made for Candy, I thought he was saying like, we made a laser gun that makes things out of candy. And I was so confused until I heard her yell that. And then I was like, oh, right. Her friend's name is Candy. But eventually they are setting up this huge machine, our greatest achievement, the Smarticle Accelerator. And Waddles will be able to solve all the greatest puzzles of the universe, the origin of life, the meaning of existence, why dudes have nipples. Excellent questions. So this begins to get juiced up, and we're, getting all excited about this super cool pig. And all of a sudden, Mabel falls to her knees and says, when will you have time for us? I'm your best friend. What about helping me? Do you want to spend your whole life in meetings with dumb smart guys? This brain junk has made you forget who you are. Don't you remember us? And she holds out this photo of Waddles' maybe birthday. And he remembers all the times that him and Mabel hung out, her cuddling him, them running like through pastures and bopping Grunkle Sam on the head, or Grunkle Stan on the head while he's trying to eat a sandwich. And all of a sudden, Waddles says, what good is helping the world if I can't help my favorite person in the world? And it's a good thing I built in a dum-dum switch. And he reverses it and takes his intelligence back down to pig level. And he says, in my last 8 seconds of consciousness, Dipper, I want you to know that science is a horizon to search for, not a prize to hold in your hand. Also, I miss getting my tummy tickled. And that's it. And he is back to being Waddles. Thank God. We would have missed you so terribly, Waddles. It would have been terrible. I would have hated it. And Mabel, like a sad Mabel, oof, it's hard to watch a sad Mabel, guys. It's unnatural. So her being happy again, it makes me really, really happy. And this machine winds up breaking down, and poor Dipper is just so sad because they put so much work into it. But Mabel says, what'll make you feel better is a simple hug from a simple pig. And he's like, oh, fine. And he hugs the pig, and everything is okay. So that's the end of that story. Then we go to the very final story, Clay Day. Y'all, this show. I can't wait to see what Owen thinks of this. They go full on claymation in huge sections of this episode. And you know what? That's not fair. I say full on, but it's not, because everybody else is still animated and the claymation is happening around them. It's weird. It's great. So what it turns out is going on, they are all sitting down watching TV together, and Grunkle Stan wants to put on one of his old classic favorites from when he was a kid, not realizing that Mabel has a terrible fear of claymation stuff. And he turns it on, and there's just this like giant cyclops creature that truthfully is terrifying. And she goes and like hides in the laundry basket and refuses to come out. She is absolutely not having it. And they decide to go and find the creator of this show to show her all of the models and prove that there is nothing to be afraid of. Only it turns out that the creator of the show, he's like, Yeah, you think that I just moved these things frame by frame? I'm not a fucking masochist. I used black magic to animate the figures, and now they have taken over and they are holding me hostage. First of all, genius. Second of all, I love on the way in how they're talking about how this guy is like a recluse who doesn't want to deal with people. And Soos says something like, yeah, they're called animators. Little self-deprecation. I like it. Here we are. Guys, can you hear that weird buzzing? I keep hearing something, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm imagining that. So what happens is that they get locked up in clay to keep them prisoner. But Mabel, who has not really been on board with this whole thing, has managed to break away. And she is watching from above, trying to figure out what to do. And she finds some clay, and she creates something, a little smiley face that she actually likes out of it. And it's like, maybe I can do something with the clay that I've got. So she goes up against the one-eyed Clops, and she turns it into a big star-shaped creature that she was watching in the movie before Grunkle Stan put his movie in. And it is a really weird sequence when she's like smushing its face and recreating it into something else. It's really freaky. But I adore the way this goes down. This star is like out here collapsing onto the weird skeleton guys, and there are skeleton guys like sticking out of her front. That's so creepy. And then what follows is this big supposed claymation fight, because the characters are talking about how it's really, really expensive. So stop motion is pure evil and probably really expensive. Incredibly expensive. That's an impressive fight, though. I'm glad we're facing towards it. It's so good. I loved it. This was definitely my favorite part of this episode. And I really enjoy that Mabel is like, you know what? I'm still definitely afraid of claymation, but at least I know that my fear of claymation is actually rational. Which, honestly, that is a big help. Like, there is something about feeling like you don't have control over a fear that doesn't make a lot of sense, and you wish that you could break it because you know it's a silly thing. But if there's a fear that you're like, no, this is a valid thing, this could hurt me, it sort of gives you like a bit of something to cling to that makes you feel a little bit more sane. So they go back to the house, and everything seems to be back to normal until Soos comes out as Gumby. Oh my god. Why? I don't like this at all. Why is he like this? I am so glad that even though he is having such a good time, we see Grunkle Stan and Dipper and Mabel all like clinging together in fear and terror, because that is the correct reaction. Listen, claymation is spooky enough anyway. It's freaky enough. But when you turn into like Gumby, I had a friend who went as Gumby for Halloween, and he had like a real Gumby suit. Like it was a dense foam, like that shit was terrifying. Easily the most unnerving thing in the room. Oh my god. No. Dislike. So, yeah, correct reaction. So then we go back to Grunkle Stan, who's been telling these stories, and he says, you don't want to buy any of my stuff. Well, how about a free sample of this delicious potion? And you, in quotes, drink it and collapse, and you look up a moment later, I'll have something new for sale very soon. And he seems to be painting glue, I would imagine, over your lips to glue your mouth shut. Here we have our latest attraction, the legendary cheapskate. And I love this, that they are all thinking that it's like a statue or something, but the little girl says, I saw it blinking. And both Mabel and and Dipper come up to it and want to play tic-tac-toe and don't seem to, like, care or know that it's an actual person. And she wants to play tic-tac-toe, but then keeps changing her mind about whether she wants to be X's or O's. Why is this so infuriating? Oh my God, I wanted to kill her. Okay, you're going to hate me right now, but is X's still a possibility? And then it just writes, help me. I don't think you're playing this right. And that's the end of the episode, which... What? Really? Well, okay. So, yeah, that's it. These were some weird ones, but I really enjoyed these. I believe, and Melanie, will let me know if I'm wrong. I will also check the Spoil Me sheet. But I believe that from here on out, the Gravity Falls episodes will all be single episode commissions. It said something like that, I think, on the thing. Expect these to be single commissions from here on out. Well, I'm looking at the sheet. And let's see. Season 2, episode 3, 4, 5, 6. Season 7, episode 8. Yes. Okay. So that is correct. So it looks like single episodes, and then season 2 episodes 11 and 12 are both voyeur episodes that I will be watching live. I will not fuck those up this time. I promise. Swear to it. Okay? You have my word. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage. This was super fun. And I will be doing a live watch of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend very shortly. So stick with me if you want to see that and hang out with me with that. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.